Before it became one of the most beloved indie games of all time. Before the memes, the fan art, the speedruns, the 112%. Hollow Knight was just a weird little bug in a game jam. And it almost never happened. This is the story of how two dudes from Australia built a hand-drawn masterpiece that redefined the Metroidvania, and how Silksong was never meant to exist. The lore of how Silksong came to exist runs almost as deep as the lore of Hollow Nest itself. So many interesting facts came together to create Team Cherry's incredible franchise. From the name Team Cherry being a throwback to developer William Pellin's school nickname, Cherry, to the fact that the beautiful, haunting soundtrack almost didn't happen. But the most interesting fact about Hollow Knight has to be that its ultimate explosion in popularity was all thanks to the death of the Wii U console. It all started with a game jam. Ludum Dare 27 took place in 2013 with the theme of 10 Seconds. Two developers working at a game studio in Adelaide, Australia, Ari Gibson and William Pellin, teamed up and made this. A tiny sword-wielding bug that had to kill enemies to keep its health meter from hitting 0. Look at him go. It wasn't great, it wasn't very long, but it had something. Gibson was an animator, Pellin a programmer. They bonded over a love of Zelda 2, Mega Man X, and Dark Souls. That strange little game jam bug would stick with them as they formed a tiny team, a throwback to Pellin's school nickname, and the fruit that kept the hungry knight alive, Team Cherry. And with that, they started building something bigger, maybe even something a little too big. In late 2014, Team Cherry launched a Kickstarter for Hollow Knight. Their goal was 35,000 Australian dollars. You would never know it now, but the Kickstarter almost didn't succeed. The first 2 weeks were incredibly slow, and Team Cherry worried it would flop. But with regular updates, art reveals, and a demo build, Team Cherry boosted attention and grew more backers late in the campaign. In the end, they would crush their goal. From November to December 2014, over 2,100 backers contributed more than 57,000 Australian dollars. The campaign had promised hand-drawn animation, a deep lore, and of course, Wii U support. These were bold promises for two guys working in a tiny office on second-hand IKEA furniture. And as it turns out, animating every character by hand takes a long-ass time. With the recent funding success, Team Cherry could now expand the game's scope beyond their original small concept, leading to larger and more complex worlds. They continued to hit their Kickstarter stretch goals, adding things like the White Palace, the game's most polarizing stage, with its infamous controller-chucking platforming sections. The White Palace was almost cut due to development time, but Ari fought to keep it in because it was, quote, too cool to lose. They added new boss fights, including Hornet. They added additional areas for deeper lore, including the Abyss. They added the Dream Nail and Dream Bosses, one of the game's coolest systems. The game grew bigger. The combat got sharper. The world of Hollow Nest kept expanding. It was beautiful, but it was brutal. Soon Team Cherry found themselves battling burnout, feature creep, and bug after bug after bug. But they worked in unity, pushing past the creep, pushing past the exhaustion. They coded everything themselves, and somehow they didn't kill each other. But what about that Kickstarter stretch goal that promised a bonus mode with Hornet as a playable character? That was the original plan. There was no sequel. But it was just too ambitious to squeeze into Hollow Knight. So instead, Team Cherry did us all a favor and spun it into what has now become Hollow Knight Silksong. Hollow Knight launched in 2017 on PC, and it was a great game, but kind of under the radar. Now before that launch, Team Cherry's Kickstarter had promised to release on PC and the Wii U. But as the game grew and development delayed, the Wii U was struggling in sales. In late 2016, Nintendo announced the Switch, releasing March 2017. In February 2017, Team Cherry posted a Kickstarter update saying, the Wii U version is dead. Then came Nintendo's big E3 showcase in June 2018 in Los Angeles. The showcase focused mostly on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, but tucked into the middle of their presentation, they dropped a little announcement trailer for Hollow Knight on Switch. But instead of saying, coming soon, Nintendo said, available later today. Kablammy! The Shadow Drop Switch release suddenly opened up Hollow Knight to a massive new audience. Everyone was talking about Hollow Knight. Sales spiked overnight, and Hollow Knight exploded into the mainstream indie scene. Speedrunners, lore nerds, streamers, musicians, fan artists, the fandom was deep and wildly creative. By 2020, Hollow Knight had sold over 3 million copies, from a doodle to a tiny game jam bug to a modern classic. Hollow Knight is not afraid to let you get lost. There's no big glowing arrow, no voiceover tutorial, no map until you earn it. The design is tight, the secrets are layered, the combat, simple to learn, lethal to master. The game design allowing you to feel each strike you deliver to an enemy, your nail, your beautiful nail. Every NPC has a story, every area has its own soundtrack, every enemy hand-drawn and filled with weird little quirks. Team Cherry didn't just make a game, they made a world that felt ancient and broken and alive. Fans compared it to Dark Souls meets Metroid in a Tim Burton sketchbook, and yeah, that pretty much nails it. The story of Hollow Knight is full of wild, fun facts. The entire audio engine coded by one guy. That iconic nail sound when you strike an enemy, delivered with custom frame-by-frame hitboxes. That's why it feels so damn good. The soundtrack. Oh, that beautiful soundtrack. Christopher Larkin layered cello, piano, ambient noise, and weird insecty textures to create that masterpiece. Christopher Larkin. He wasn't involved at the very start. Larkin was brought on after early demos. Christopher Larkin? He had never scored a game before. He wasn't some giant composer. He was mostly doing Australian indie films, TV, and smaller projects. He studied composition at the Elder Conservatorium in Adelaide, so he had the chops. But this was his first big game gig. Larkin was a friend of a friend connection. Team Cherry reached out, showed him early art and concepts, and he was hooked. This is just another magical story of the success of Hollow Knight. Tiny development team meets unknown composer, lightning in a bottle. Hollow Knight isn't just a great game, it's a mood. Soulful, tragic, and epic. And Larkin is responsible for half of that. A friend of a friend. So what about the original plan for Hornet? A Kickstarter promise to be part of a playable DLC. But that DLC, well, it grew, and eventually became Silksong. The game that fans have waited on for what feels like the entire era of Hollow Nest. What started as a DLC turned into a full-blown sequel. New kingdom, new combat, new lore, and hallelujah, a new release date. Team Cherry went from passion project to legends of the indie scene, and it all began with one idea. What if you played as a little bug with a big sword? If you're a Hollow Knight fan, or just love indie games, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for crying out loud. Silksong has arrived, and you know we'll be there.